do this fucking review. Wow, it feels great to be back in movie theaters, doesn't it? I mean, we're finally back in them. Last one I was in was 7 months ago, way back in January. I saw Uncut Gems, and now we're back. I've seen Inception, the 10th anniversary edition, and now Christopher Nolan's Tenet. So 2 Christopher Nolan movies that I've seen in a long time, since we've been out of theaters for a very long time. My last review was April, so coming up on 5 months ago, and here I am, still just as good looking as last time, but this isn't about me. This is about Christopher Nolan's newest movie, Tenet. It stars John David Washington and Robert Pattinson. It's a spy, James Bond-esque movie with a bit of a time inversion twist to it. And that's all I can really say, because the rest that I know about it is spoilers, considering I went into this movie knowing very little information, like most people. But it's not quite what I expected, especially from what the trailer led me to believe. In fact, I would say it wasn't even what I expected at all. I didn't like this movie. I didn't like this movie at all. I went into it thinking, alright, this is a Christopher Nolan movie. He has written and directed many great films, one of them being my personal favorite, Interstellar. All of them are very deep in plot and emotion, and they really build a universe that you can accept, even though it's not realistic, and get yourself involved in that world. But with Tenet, he did the exact opposite with that. Movie starts, boom, you're right in the action, you're involved, you're thinking, alright, focus, what are they saying? What are they doing here? What does this mean? What are they trying to convey the message here for? And you're trying to follow along with his thought process, but it doesn't really work out too well in this one, because most of the time you can't hear the characters. The main character's name is protagonist. The storyline is incredibly hard to follow, just like Dunkirk, where sure they tell you when things are happening one time, but then the rest of it is hope you can figure out when the time switches on your own. I don't know why Christopher Nolan decided to do the mixing the way he did for this movie. It's very hard to hear what they're saying. Most of the time the score is overbearing to the actual dialogue of the film. Sometimes their accents are very thick, and when they are talking and there's no music behind them, it's a really quick, short scene, almost like it's trying to make a joke off of how quick the scene is. Like he's playing on his own kind of he's kind of parodying himself. Like he knows that he does these long, drawn out action scenes and like really bizarre stories and stuff. So this time he's like making it almost kind of like a Marvel movie with some one-liners and quips that he put in there. Wasn't a fan of those. The action, right away at the beginning, first 10 minutes of the movie I really liked, really enjoyed. I thought, wow, like this is going to be an incredible movie. Saw it in IMAX at an early access screening, and it is loud and blaring. Just, I mean, my chest was shaking, the chairs were shaking, the whole theater was shaking. I honestly thought that the movie theater had left the sound way too high from a previous movie, but that's not the case with this one. He actually just wanted to burst your eardrums while listening to this movie, including some of the dialogue. The action is just, it goes nowhere after that. Everything that happens is kind of like, what's happening? I can't see the camera, he's shaking around too much. Or, what was that for? Why did they do that at all? What was the motivation for them to do this? Which leads me into the plot of this movie. When you take a really quick glance at it, it's really plot heavy, but then when you start to think about it, there's no plot at all. He's just really complex with what his twist to the movie is, which is this minor spoiler alert, the time inversion, where an object can reverse or invert itself and work backwards in its own timeline while everything else is still moving forward. But that's mainly what he focuses on, is how complex can he get with that, and how little can he actually work with the characters in the movie. Like I said, the protagonist, that's the main character's name. You never learn the main character's name other than I'm the protagonist. Like he says that 2 or 3 times in the movie, but I was really expecting to, okay, when am I going to start learning things about this character? Like Leonardo DiCaprio's character in Inception, or Matthew McConaughey's character in Interstellar. You get really deep into these characters and who they are. Leonardo DiCaprio lost his wife down while they were in limbo dreaming. She killed herself thinking she was still dreaming. Matthew McConaughey lost his wife His relationship with his daughter is really stressful throughout the whole movie, considering she really wanted him to come back. And I guess I won't spoil the rest of the movie for you if you haven't seen it, but it's fantastic. I highly recommend that one. Love it to death. There's nothing wrong with that movie. But this one there's no emotion whatsoever conveyed throughout any of the 2.5-hour duration. Not a single character did I think, oh, dang, I feel bad for them for this. Like, the main villain, played by Kenneth Branagh, beats his wife in one scene and then shoots her in the stomach. That's the worst I felt for a character in this movie. Like, I didn't care about anything else that happened other than that, and I really didn't care too much about that. Is that bad to say? I don't know. It wasn't anything gripping. What Christopher Nolan tries to do is really build a relationship between the mother in this movie and her son, who you don't see like at all throughout the movie. He's from afar, you see him, and then she's holding his hand, and that's about it. That's all he tries to do with conveying any sort of emotion or attaching you to these characters, so you can't really care for what they're doing. I don't understand the protagonist's motivation for helping this woman. Her husband is the villain. He has really no motivation to do anything other than because he wants to. I mean, there's a line in the movie where he says something like, if I can't have her, no one else can. So that alludes to, if I can't live in this world, no one else can. So he's pretty much preparing a nuclear holocaust / World War III. That's what we hear in the trailer. And that's all they really tell you. If he dies, so does the world. And that's the whole driving point of this movie, is to stop World War III using this inversion technique to work forwards and backwards through time. Which I will say is, there's some neat things about that. It looked gorgeous. This movie is beautiful. All of Christopher Nolan's movies are. I mean, they're fantastic. But this one was really neat with the practical effects that they did. There's a scene near the end where some people are working forwards in time while others are working backwards. That was really cool because they're kind of fighting on a battleground, which is a pretty generic, like, it almost seems like a war movie that you'd see in like a red box kind of slot. So he made it look cool how people were running backwards and working backwards through time. Well, this side of the field was also working forwards, yet they're in the same shot. So that was pretty cool, and you could distinguish them because one of them's wearing red and the other one's wearing blue. But there were some neat shots, very few CGI shots throughout the movie. I think I caught maybe one or two, and that included a building blowing up and then being rebuilt. But otherwise, even the reverse bullet shots, the bullet holes in a cement wall, it looks like they actually build cement there in reverse time, and the bullet flies out of the wall. It's really cool. That's the coolest part about the movie. The sound, I said, was very cool. The plot has really no plot other than, hey, you're a girl, I'm gonna help you stop World War III with this backwards time stuff. And the main character just really accepts that backwards time inversion really quickly. He passes a test, and they're like, hey, here's Tenet. You need to abide by this word. That's all he really learns about that, and then they put him out in the ocean, and hey, look, here's this, you can catch a bullet, you can make things float, anything that you've touched, you can reverse its time and like pull it back to you and do this really cool, awesome, weird stuff. And he's just like, oh, okay, cool. But before he says that, the doctor that's explaining all this stuff to him goes, don't try to understand it, feel it. And at that moment in the theater did I realize, I'm not going to understand any of this movie. I'm going to go through the entire 2.5 hours going, huh? What? What is it? What is going on there? Is that even relevant? What did he say? Am I supposed to just like experience the noise and not try to understand what they're trying to tell each other? Otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much Nolan's clearest sign as to, my audience isn't going to understand this. I spent 10 years working on this movie, which I respect the hell out of. That is awesome. He spent 10 years working on the script. I think 5 years in the screenplay. I mean, that's incredible. 10 years working on one movie just to tell one story. That's really neat, because he knows he has the idea. He just wants to be able to tell it, which is what Nolan does best. He tells a really deep, emotional story, but in a blockbuster type of way, even though it's not really a blockbuster movie. I forgot where I was going with that, but that's besides the point. It's really confusing. It's very predictable. There were things where in a fight scene, I'm going, oh, he's clearly this, or like, that's clearly this person, and later on in the movie they're going, oh, that's what that was. Yep, the idiot sitting in the theater figured out that one before you could in the movie. Wow. And it's a Christopher Nolan movie, so I don't expect things to be predictable. But like I said, it's undeniably gorgeous. It's fantastic in the way that it's made, just not the filmmaking that I have seen come from Nolan. And I would honestly say with this whole inversion thing, go into this movie just expecting a spy movie. Don't try to look into anything. Just try to understand that this is a guy stopping a man from ending the world. And then when the inversion stuff happens, just let your mind don't let it go blank, but let it almost relax and just enjoy the beauty of how they made these scenes, because that is the coolest part of the movie. Otherwise, I'd say the only thing working backwards is probably Christopher Nolan's filmmaking skills, with how he mixed this movie, how he wrote the story, how he expects the audience to understand the story, and pretty much all the emotion that he wants them to draw from it. So, yeah, cheers to that one. And as much as I hate doing this on my first movie review back in 5 months, and especially to a Christopher Nolan film, but Tenet, I'm going to have to give you a C. There you have it. That's my review for Christopher Nolan's newest movie, Tenet, starring John David Washington and Robert Pattinson. In short, not a good movie, in my opinion. Really not a fan of it. Could have been done a lot better. Would have made the trailers different for sure. Those, I think, were really misleading. But otherwise, the acting's not great. The sound mixing is awful. The storyline is and just a lot of the choices made by the characters in the movie were really confusing and not very well articulated. They didn't go anywhere with it, but that's for you to judge. Go see this movie. Let me know what you think of it. Comment down below. Let me hear what you have to say about it, whether you loved it or hated it, how dumb I am for hating it, or how right I am for hating it, whatever. It's your opinion. Go see a movie. That's why movies are made. Theaters are opening back up. Go see these. Go get the experience of sitting down in a big IMAX theater and having your ears blown off by Christopher Nolan's biggest explosion and loudest dialogue ever. But this has been my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, let me know what you think down below. Please subscribe. Let me know that you're out there watching these. I'm still going to do them even if nobody is, just because I like doing them. And as always, enjoy the movie. See, and if you're still confused as to why I was eating oatmeal at the beginning of this video, it's because I wanted to show you that something as simple as someone sitting in their small college dorm room eating oatmeal can lead to something like a really long, but, I mean, I'd say pretty good movie review. And yet you can have a really complex story like Christopher Nolan's Tenet, and it really leads to nothing. So that's the point of my little oatmeal adventure at the beginning of this review. Like I said, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Just one more thing I want to talk about. Ever since I saw this movie, one thing's been on my mind. I want to know what it looks like for an inverted person to use the bathroom. Can you imagine someone walking into the bathroom, but like reverse? So they'd walk in backwards, they'd take down their pants, and they'd sit down looking really relaxed. And then all of a sudden they're tensing up, and they're kind of like getting ready to scream, when all of a sudden out of the toilet flies a giant poo.